Hello everybody and welcome back to Language Litigation and Integration Part 4. This one's called Viruses and Virality. And in this lecture we're going to discuss a bunch of things. We're going to discuss biology, history, law, police officers. I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is going to serve as two parts. One, just a normal lecture right along, picking up where we left off in Part 3, and then also a call for resignation and a public complaint about, again, ongoing crime. We'll discuss it more in detail in the upcoming video clips, but the United States government and world governments have literally been restricting the publication of fundamental scientific discovery for 3.5 years now, and now there's literally a global pandemic going on. So we're going to discuss, like I said, the title of this one is Viruses and Virality. We're going to discuss literally the biology of viruses, the virality of psychology and fear, and again, how actual scientific progress is restricted by communities or cults. So where we're going to start is just with a couple of definitions. What's the difference between a community and a cult? Well, a community has laws. A community respects individuality. And a community, most importantly, respects the scientific method. Actually, I'd say most importantly, respects the law. But a cult centralizes power to a leader or ideologue. You have one guy that says, hey guys, you should, I'm the savior, I'm the best, follow me. And a bunch of stupid people do it. And why do they do it? Because they have a misinterpreted dogma with general, flamboyant language. You can be all that you can be. There's a bad guy. Another important point for a cult is there's always some outside person causing crime against you, and you need to right that wrong, and that the leader is going to tell you how to do so. But in reality, let's be honest, we're a bunch of apes on a fucking rock. All a cult really is a bunch of individuals manipulating other people for sex, money, and death. I put death up there too because, again, most cults have suicide pacts. And picking up where Part 3 was, remember, we live in a spook and goof model of the universe, where people are profoundly illiterate and no one cares about anything. So yeah, now we're talking about the biology. So a quick review of, again, I have up here the difficulty of defining life. In this clip I'm just going to point out two things. One, that we don't actually have the correct scientific definition for what is life. And two, how scientific arrogance and ignorance restricts actual development and technology in our society right now today. So here's you, here's me. I'm Brad, I'm made of organs, which are made of tissues, which are made of cells. And if I've got enough, a lot of very, calling me a crackpot on my solution to the Riemann hypothesis, but that's a math problem. Biology is a physical problem. And those little pentagons and or polygons that I showed you, that is literally how every cell on this planet differentiates. That's how every cell, how every bit of RNA determines the structure and shape of a cell. And so what is a virus? Well, a virus is just a string of RNA typically wrapped in some fat. And what is a bacteria? I think bacteriums are eukaryotic. Eukaryotes have nucleuses and prokaryotes do not. But the point is, from a public health and an application standpoint, you have antibiotics that kill or mitigate the damage of bacteria. And we don't have any solution to viruses. Now, if you went into a scientist and say, can you solve a virus, they would say no. But that's just their own personal scientific ignorance. If you really think that we're going to sit here over the next 100, 200, 300 years and not up here, disease is a completely scientific problem and is completely solvable. Whether you have COVID-19, SARS, AIDS, whatever, they're just molecules with shapes. And so let's talk about infection, transmission, and mortality from diseases. Well, it's very, very clear if you look out into the world, any system or structure is trying to reproduce, or not die and reproduce. And so bacteria and viruses, they're still structures, they're still shapes, they're trying to not die and they're trying to reproduce. And the way that this is going to get fixed, okay, the way that this gets fixed is with the CRISPR-Cas9 systems. There's absolutely no reason we can't confidently modify RNA outside of a body or inside of a body at all. No reason at all. And so, from a general health standpoint of how do you not get infected? Well, the simple best thing is to have a strong immune system. And a strong immune system, you come from having good sleep, good exercise, and the proper. So, what is a cell made, or proper diet? What is a cell made of? A cell made of about 25% protein, 25%. I'm drawing a blank, and about 50% healthy fat. Carbs, sugar. Carbs are sugar. And so once we scientifically understand, life is this big mystery. No, it effing isn't. Once we understand how all of cells reproduce, we can understand how to literally mitigate the acceptance of a pathogen or of a virus. And I also have up here pathogens in cancer. A pathogen is a bacterium or a virus. Cancer is an inefficiency of your body's own cells to metabolize sustenance. Right? You put in food, your cell absorbs some amount of protein, carbs, and sugar, and it produces a cancer cell instead of a healthy functioning cell. But all of this is classified under dysfunction and disorder, which is a completely solvable physical problem. Let me be very, very clear here. I am not saying I can develop a virus or a vaccine. I'm not saying that anyone can develop a vaccine in, I don't have data right on me, but 2, 3, 4 weeks. But you can develop vaccines over 1, 2, 3, 4 years. And I have been promoting this scientific discovery for 3.5 years. And let me tell you about, before we jump back into the biology, let me tell you about the different levels of mathematical discovery. I'm a first principle scientist that has reduced a first principle proof to undeniable logic. Literally, you say one thing, and then I take Johnny, who says one thing, and I take Billy, who says another thing, and then show them how that logic connects with everyday common English. So my caliber of scientific discovery is truly, truly profoundly more than everybody else. And it's not an arrogant statement. That is a statement saying, when you live in a cult, a bunch of people that restrict scientific discovery, they're going to get bitter and jealous and upset, right? Think of the biology of groups. A group of birds or foxes can sense a sick animal. When you're living in a cult, normal is weird. So if you have morals, if you stand up for science, those people are still going to be like, ooh, what's this weird guy talking about? Well, it's science. You should just do the scientific method and give a shit. But my point to you is again, world governments are restricting feloniously restricting scientific publication, which has direct definitions to defining life and treating life, right? Okay, so picking back up on the biology, right? The strong immune system is your first defense of, if you said on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you stop infectious diseases? It is truly 70 to 80% of your own personal health and then 30% technology, CRISPR-Cas9. But the transmission problem, right? Like today, I mean, I hear people talking, like complaining about the economy. I am a decently financed, I'm an entrepreneur that owns a small business that is directly affected by this. To hear people say we should open our businesses back up at the cost of people's grandparents or friends or family or whoever, that is insanity. It's absolutely effing insanity. Now another biological point I want to make is age is just a number. I'll just write it up here. And now we'll talk about infection. Right. You can have a 56-year-old man that abused his health his whole life, and his cells function as like an 80-year-old or a 90-year-old. You can have the early developmental years are obviously the time you're most susceptible to contract diseases. Your immune system hasn't kicked up to speed yet, and obviously as you deteriorate as you get older. But again, age is just a number. So when you say, you know, oh my goodness, an infant got infected, or oh my goodness, a 30-year-old got infected, or oh my goodness, you know, an 101-year-old recovered. These are all just sensational bullshit word salad plagues, man. Your cells have some definable functionality, and when that deteriorates, that's when you die. That's how you not die, is by taking care of it. And then the last thing I want to talk about, but the actual COVID virus today is the watching this unfold in America, the profound incompetence of our government officials, of our politicians, and more importantly, politicians are always been stupid fucks. To the investors and to the real private economy people, with real big financed individuals. How the fuck are you not prepared for biological disease? Two big damages in this world, right? We can have wars, you can have murders, you can have terrorists, natural disaster, and biological disease. That is how this whole fucking species dies. But hey, let's shit hit the fan. Once shit hits the fan, it's already too fucking late. But once shit hits the fan, we'll start pointing fingers at everybody else and make a couple masks or hand sanitizers. And I'm not trying to insult the frontline workers in any effing way, but I am trying to insult the politicians, and then the high finance and people that really know my research, what's going on. It's absolute bullshit. I looked this morning, I think there was like 30-some thousand global deaths. Every single one of those deaths is on your hands. And again, I'm not saying we can solve this right now or today, but disease is a solvable problem. Here's how we solve it. This is meaningful distinctions in pathogens, biologens, and bacteria. And when I talk to medical professionals, I couldn't talk to one single person that talks like this, that has actual functioning understanding of what the fuck to do. So when you get on there and see John or Mike DeWine in Ohio or whoever the fuck else anywhere else say that we're doing the best we can, no, we are absolutely, no, we are not. Moving on. And so in this clip right here, what I want to do is show how, just some specific examples of cults in America, and how, as history goes by, people just use narrative to talk kindly of people who came before them, even when their lives were fucking shitty bullshit. So here are just some examples of hypocrisy in American history. One of the first Americans ate his wife during the first winter of American colonies. And that's in Zinn, Howard Zinn. I don't have the citation, I don't even have the book anymore. But the first Puritans or Quakers, they had great courage. And then you eat your wife. And then no one gives a shit about it, because remember, you live in a cult. So the thing about cult dynamics, right? Everyone's walking around like zombies, and it's one thing not to join a cult, but once someone snaps out and says, holy shit, these people are just, again, manipulating sex, money, and death, well, that person is perceived as a virus. They're perceived as a sickness to the colony, to the group, and they have to expel them. And so, how do we do that? Well, we write nice words when it doesn't really make any fucking sense. So we have Abraham Lincoln, never supported slavery. And he's remembered for his Emancipation Proclamation for freeing the slaves. Let me say this, I have personally reviewed the historical record for Abraham Lincoln. I mean, it wasn't like, maybe we should, he was vocally supportive of never legalizing the rights for African Americans, and the only reason he ever did was simply as a political concession. His words, not anybody else's, the entire historical record, and go read it yourself. But again, we talk about the great steps in American history of Abraham Lincoln emancipating the slaves. Fucking bullshit. Now, going back in history, I think this was like, I don't know, mid-1600s. The Salem witch trials were in 1690s. I think 1692 and 1693. And I don't know how many, but thousands of people, right? Thousands of people got burned for witchcraft. Think about how that's aged in history. If I said, hey, Johnny, I'm going to accuse you of witchcraft and I'm going to go tell my friends we should burn them. People would be like, what the fuck? 300 years ago, that literally happened thousands and thousands of times. But what actually happened, right? We're just people. some bitch, some woman, or some guy didn't like somebody else, started a rumor, that gossip stuck, and now the cult mentality takes over. Another thing about Howard Zinn's book, and again, I'm extremely read in history, the one thing that scares absolutely everybody at every point in time is the cult mob mentality. And it's a vocalized thing. Go read a history book. Because again, like I said, once shit hits the fan and that spooky, goofy mentality takes over, you're stuck, man. Like, you can't do anything. Because again, normal is what everyone decides it is. What everyone else is doing. We're just mimetic apes doing what everyone else does. And I couldn't find a good date for this, but burning slaves as public entertainment. And this has got to have happened in the last 100 years, if not earlier, or more recent. But again, imagine saying, hey, in 1932, I don't know, hey man, we're gonna go have a picnic, gonna hang out with Johnny, Joe, Karen, they're all coming over, and we're just gonna burn somebody else, light them on fire, and have a good fucking day. All right, that's the dark side of biology, right? We have to not die. And that is it is an axiomatic fact in physics, it's an axiomatic fact in biology. And then we take our narratives, our words, and we tell nice stories about shit that never happened. Now we're going to discuss law. And so, picking back up on the history lesson, I just want to make one simple point. And that point is, over all of history, the most important facet of cities is a police force, is a third-party public enforcement of the law. You have hunter-gatherers, you have cities, where you have hunter-gatherers, then you have states, then you have accepted and voted on constitutions, now you have centralized governments. And the absolute most important facet of that is, well, first of all, is inform citizens, but on actual application of the law is to have a police force. And a rogue police force is the most dangerous cult on earth. Fact, go read a fucking book. And more importantly, a right is not something you have to ask someone else for. Right? That is what a police officer has a sworn oath to, the United States Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, subsection 7 gives me my right to publish. Okay, but you have to actually practically publish that paper. And again, I'm going to be talking about the actual interactions that I've had with cops. Since I posted a civil RICO complaint video in August of 2019, fun fact about the RICO Act, if you can get the civil parts to stick, which is undeniable, you can typically get some criminal aspects as well. I am seeking criminal charges for these following police officers. And we'll go through the actual statute and law assessment on the next slide. But I just want to point this out. If you stand up at a sports game and salute our armed services, and you should, these are the fucking rights that they fucking give their life for. And you have a sworn oath to uphold that. But remember, what everyone else is doing, you go to a job every day, you see your 4 cubicle mates at the police station, you get a couple emails, you're just going to do whatever your boss man says. Because we live in a bunch of cowards and criminals. But again, I just wanted to point that out. A right is not something you have to ask somebody else for. And I have a right to publish my paper. I have an undeniable mathematical proof. It has direct biological implications. A police force is the most important facet. When someone breaks the law, you call the cops. When someone breaks the law against you and you call the cops and they say, piss off, what the fuck can you do? Nothing. You can file a report and it'll get filed into a desk, and guess what? Then you're right back to no one caring about anything. Because this is America. This is fucking America, bro. And so yeah, now I'm going to be calling for police officers, criminal charges for police officers, resignations from every politician that is aware of my work, and to highly encourage the population to never buy from certain private investors. And so in this section, again, I'm calling for these people's resignations, and if they don't resign, and if they're not criminally prosecuted, again, the American government is the most incompetent, profoundly negligent organization of anything. And remember, we've been talking about cults. If you want to accuse somebody of being in a cult, they would probably say, I'm not in a cult. And for the most part, you're not. But what you are in is a cult diluted down with a bunch of pathetic fucking whiny little fucking sheep, right? Remember our goofy Gary, the guy too pathetic to do anything. Makes a couple shitty jokes. And then our spooky Sandy. Well, guess what? I said that wasn't a real person. That one is a real person. This morning, I don't give a shit, man. Like, there's people dying of fixable disease and everyone's sitting around with their feet on their hands. I emailed Michael Drake. I've been in personal contact with Michael Drake for some time now. And I said, where'd the email go? The subject of the email is Murder Mike. And I say, please fucking do something to get me out of this hell of a city and hell of a country. Does Urban Meyer ever beat his dick at Costa Cara George's grave? That's what I said. Because you know why? When someone gets into a dumpster and shoots themselves in the fucking head because of the delusions and arrogance and butt-fucking disgusting cult-like behavior that is Columbus, Ohio, you should call out those people. And I don't have the publications on me right now, but I can absolutely find them. They're absolutely on the internet. Again, Costa Cara George's parents talking about how the Ohio State mentality impacted this. And so did the text messages from them. So if you're thinking I'm talking ill about the dead, go fuck yourself. These people just don't care because, remember, once someone snaps out of a cult, the thing that everyone else notices is that difference. And they have to zombie their way back into it. And how do I know? I've lived in Columbus, Ohio my whole life. I don't like Ohio State because they ruined my life and the health of my family. This isn't me bitching. These are actual legal progressions and legal obligations that I have sent to these people. I have real businesses, real lawyers, real financing. But again, this is the United States government and world governments. No one cares. But that's the, yes, accrued email. Yes, direct. But again, I stand by standing up for people who get killed by cults. Fact. And so I get an email for harassment from Cassandra Schaefer this morning. I don't know what today is, March 29th. So for harassment, I don't have case law, but I I can't remember the case right now, but I personally reviewed case law where 100 emails in about 15 minutes wasn't considered harassment by a judge in either Columbus or New York, or in Ohio and New York. And so that was one email. When I've sent Michael Drake, maybe honestly I don't know, but maybe like 3 or 4 other emails over like 2 or 3 weeks. So basically what we have is Cassandra Schaefer, Detective 348. She's a little sheep. She's literally the spooky Sandy from the analogy. And I talked with her for a while, and her exact words were, the university's been patient with me. The university neglected my human rights as a paying student since 2014. Okay, so when you guys say, when you go to your district attorney and say, I'm not affiliated with the school, I don't know what the continuing crime statute is in Ohio, but there certainly is one, and when you've committed fraud and negligence for long enough for me not to be an affiliate, it's still fuck you, you're the criminal. So have fun with that, Sandy. But fire her, resign. And her lieutenant, Daner, something. I have his email around here too. But yeah, Ohio State University makes billions of dollars in revenue from making people slam their heads together, which is known to be detrimental to neurological health, CTE. They don't pay their student athletes, and then when they get into a dumpster and shoot themselves, if you stand up and say, hey guys, we should really stop doing this weird shit, everyone will be like, whoa, what's this weird guy doing? Talking about the law and education and love, caring, being a human being, having some empathy. That'd be new. But I also had some other further interactions with people from Cal Berkeley. I've been in personal contact with David Eisenbud. They have signed for my research 3 or 4 times over the past 3 or 4 months. And so Nicole Smith, Samantha Gross, Leroy Harris, that's a lieutenant at Cal Berkeley. I also am calling for the resignation of Federal District Judge Edmund Sargis Jr. I wrote him a letter. I don't want to read the whole thing, but again, these aren't, you can doubt my mathematical capacity, you can doubt my discovery at all, that's not my problem. I have 60 videos on the internet clearly describing it. And if you can't, the only way you can deny the merits of my work is if you just bury your head in the sand. But then I received that on September 9th. Frankly, I'm just covering the violations of the law since the last law video. But again, so let's just play that out. Again, when you are contacting a public university, and again, to publish a paper, you literally have to get on a computer and hit publish. It's like a 5-second thing. The only true legal pushback they can give me is that I'm not affiliate of the school. but from the continuing crime statute, that is complete legal bullshit. Try again. But the penalty for telecommunications harassment is a minor misdemeanor, which again, I have committed 0 crimes, unequivocally 0 fucking crimes. This is a profound abuse of the law. This is a cult bully with a fucking gun and a badge. And when I call the cops, and I've gone down to police departments in Ohio, and again, there it is, people just staring off into space. Hey man, Ohio State University is restricting scientific discovery and it's killing people. That would never happen. Why would OSU not publish foundational science? I'll tell you why. Because when you stub your toe and say, ah, Jesus Christ, or oh, God damn it, that's because 30,000 years ago there was a really smart guy named Aaron, aka God, and he rewrote all of science. And then 2,000 years ago, the same shit happened. Right? That's why you say Jesus Christ and not, Darth Vader. You don't say, Darth. You say, jeez. That is literally what it is, and that's what the proof is. So if you people want to challenge my morality, my understanding of law, my intolerance for bullshit of law, file the charges, fuck you. But the harassment email, I mean, it's a joke. I have not committed harassment, but the penalty for harassment, I'm not sure. Maybe I think it's probably like the maximum sentence, like 30 days in jail, 3 months, 6 months in jail. But again, I have no criminal record. This is complete fucking bullshit. It's an absolute overstep of the law, and it's literally just a bunch of pathetic people that can't stand up for what is right. But now, on the contrary to that, the reason I have a valid debt to collect, my United States property is protected by the United States Constitution, in theory. But then you have to go protect it. When you call the cops and they say they're going to arrest you, you're just kind of fucked. But on the contrary, fraud is withholding in every federal statute and every state statute. This is more or less what fraud is. Withholding scientific information for personal gain. And we just described a cult as people with an ideologue, dogma, and most importantly, bullshit covered in narrative. Higher education is complete institutionalized fraud. People learn on an individual basis simply by doing things. But hey, it's a good narrative, right? Abraham Lincoln emancipated the slaves. Teachers teach the kids. No, they don't. People teach themselves. And now you have a global pandemic, COVID-19, killing people daily. And again, disease is fixable in general. And so fraud is withholding scientific information for personal gain. And additionally, lying to police is felony obstruction of justice. So I don't know what the Berkeley people or Michael Drake told the police, but if they didn't say, hey, we have a mathematical prodigy, and again, I hate talking about myself like that, but you have to once people treat you like shit for so long. But again, my discovery, forget me, affects absolutely every human being on this planet. And once that fraud endangers the public on a global scale, now you have treason. So Cassandra Schaefer, go ahead and file that telecommunications harassment. Have fun with that. But now what we're going to do, again, is finish up this lecture by, again, what I say, the market doesn't lie. What can we look at? Again, obviously I'm a crazy idiot. America is full of really competent, diligent, hardworking people that have read a lot of books and spend their whole days studying. And that's another thing I want to say. Despite of my capacity, I very literally spend 10, 12 hours a day working. And I mean working on intellectual research in law, biology, history, and all of these different subjects. So when you guys treat me like I'm some 26-year-old pissed off kid, I have personal family members' health endangered by your application of scientific information without respect to the stupid COVID stuff. So I can't take, if you said what is the most foundationally unnerving thing as a biological organism, it's first of all not being able to take care of yourself, and second of all it's not being able to take care of your family. And when it's against the law and the cops don't care and they say they're going to arrest you, holy shit, you have an institutionalized cult on a global level. And how is that possible? Well, you have a cell phone, right? You can be an Italian, an American, a Mexican, Asian, Russian, I don't know. But we're all connected. We all see how each other behaves. So we're all one big cult or one big community. And now, well, the market doesn't lie. So let's have a look at the last 50 years of American history and see how well we do science and how well we do business. So bringing all of these ideas together, what does this make America? And again, you can scapegoat me. I've been scapegoated my whole life. You can treat me like shit. I've been treated like shit by my whole life by everyone that actually matters to me. I couldn't give a fuck less. There's the law. Do something. But America's a cult of nothing. Remember, I really don't think America's a cult like, let's go burn witches, let's go do whatever. But it's just a bunch of, it's like on a 100, 200 year scale, we're at the tail end, right? Technology has just really proliferated since like the 40s or the 70s. And so we're in this like hangover era of just a complete primitive fucking behavior on like thousands of years scale. And people are just in denial of that. So the first thing I want to point out is, again, everything I'm saying, how do you deal with facts that you can't accept? Well, you go into denial. That's the functioning mechanism of a cult. And right now, today, if I go and watch my TV for long enough, I'll see a Denial Ohio campaign about opioids. But again, denial is denial, and Ohio is Ohio. So when I say we're all different people out here having different experiences and we all say the same shit, we would all say Denial Ohio campaign if Ohioans had a propensity to deny things. And again, it's a fucking cult. But bigger than that, again, we're all connected. We all think the same. We're all basically the same people. Theranos became a multi-billion-dollar company on zero science. That's in the past. I was at Ohio State when that happened. So that's got to be in the past, I don't know, 5 to 8 years. Think of how amazing that is. I have raised money, I have money, I've invested money. Zero science. Zero science. Nobody wants to, they like the Elizabeth Holmes, the next Steve Jobs, a woman in science. Fun fact, whether your blastocyst differentiates into a vulva and a clitoris or a penis and a ball sack, the words out of your mouth matter a lot more than your genitalia. But again, that would require a community, not a cult. But you have big time investors on something that is literally fraudulent. And people are just in denial about that. And whatever the group does, what all the other investors do, they're going to do. Dark Water, Just Mercy, and The Big Short. All movies in the past 5 to 10 years. These two in the past 1. The Big Short, again, clearly demonstrated again. Not cult as in like, let's tear down the world, let's all conspire. But on an individual level, people just want to have a good day, make a nice paycheck, and go home to their families. And when you're a bunch of pathetic people, and you're in an organization, in a group, in any sort of structure where you can diffuse responsibility, you're going to do so. We saw it all over the financial and banking industry. Just Mercy. This was a very interesting one. About a black African-American lawyer from Harvard goes and helps people that have been wrongly accused and are on death row. And at the end of the movie, I don't know the time frame, but it was a stat to the effect of 23% of inmates on death row in some amount of time were wrongly convicted. Imagine that. If you're a police officer and someone accuses Johnny of a crime, and you genuinely think you're doing the right thing, you genuinely think you're upholding the law, then you just go murder somebody and no one cares because who knows? Nobody. And again, 23% out of murder convictions. I mean, that's profoundly insane. Profoundly, mythically, weirdly, goofily insane. And then Dark Water, about DuPont poisoning, illegally dumping waste materials that, again, killed people, deformed their kids, and again, deny, diffuse responsibility, and now we have dead people and no one takes responsibility at all. And I have finance and healthcare in general. I mean, I'm extremely involved in the finance world. I'm extremely involved in healthcare. When I read about healthcare, this is what everyone says happened. Go to a medical conference and it's way more about selling than healthcare. And that might have changed in the past 5 to 8 years. I don't really know. Not at healthcare conferences. But again, this is America's stuff, man. And this is, you can hate me, you can think I'm an idiot, you can be all spooky and goofy. Oh, and that's another thing that I want to say about the law, the last clip, is I asked the detectives exactly what the people told me, or told them. And they said that Michael Drake forwarded her the email and said, this is concerning. This is concerning, and this is a violation of my rights. And at harassment, it says, if you obstruct someone's day-to-day life. You've been obstructing my day-to-day life for over 7 years, Michael. Grow a ball sack and stand up for what is right. And I'd say stand up for what is right, but resign. Michael Drake said he was going to step down from the presidency recently. I wonder why that was, Mike. But anyway, no, you're not. You are not getting paid by Ohio State University. I don't care if I have to fund a private institution in this city. I damn sure will do it. But again, I can't let people run around smashing their heads in football and caring more about games. And again, that's the sense of community. People don't actually care about sports. They care about feeling good around their friends. And then when you insult the sport or the socialing event, they take it as a personally offensive. And this is Ohio, man. Ohio State mentality has ruined my life. And if I go criticize Ohio State around Ohio State fans, they literally get turned and go into zombie mode. But again, you live in a country and a world in complete fucking denial, in complete scientific ignorance, and it's a fucking cult watered down with pathetic people. Moving on. So I'm going to finish up this lecture. This was half lecture, half legal response to police officers breaking the law for easily the 5th or 6th time this year alone. But we are all in science together. And that is completely true, right? You turn on Mike DeWine. Remember, we're all in this together. And again, I can't emphasize enough, I do fundamental scientific discovery on a daily basis. I have earned my right to criticize people a little bit more stringently than others. But I'm going to try to pitch in the Ohio, to the tune of other Ohioans. Let me try my best. I'm going to stop doing science for a little bit and Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Did that cure COVID-19? Nope, it didn't. Science will. Science will. Singing Kumbaya, we're all in this together. Again, yes, wash your hands, yes, social distancing. I agree with every large-scale policy going on. But that's because you waited forever and then shit hit the fan and now we're just fucked. But please get me out of this country and don't forget to kick the fucking sheep. Again, the reason I contact Ohio State at any point in time, is simply to get enough money to leave this fucking country comfortably. That's it. That's all I want, is my property and my rights and out of here. So again, have fun filing the charges. It's a complete fucking joke. If the DA accepts them to any extent, I will be calling for their resignations as well. But yeah, that's how viruses and virality interact with biology, and why I think America is a true cult of literally nothing. Catch you on the next episode.